It's always a good idea when you're editing to copy the background layer so you've got a spare just in case things go wrong or if you need some extra pixels. So just drag it to the create new layer icon to duplicate it. And then what we'll do is we'll make a selection and remove the guy from the background just so we've got a version of the guy in the bike that we can blur. And you can select that using the quick selection tool. It's going to be a very rough and ready selection. Make sure you've got the option here selected at the top, which is the initial tool. Then you've got add to selection if you need to modify it, or subtract from selection. But we'll start off with this icon here selected, and then just click and drag. And again, don't worry too much if it gets some of the outside area of the bike, because it's going to be blurred, so it's going to be very stylized, and it doesn't really matter too much if we see some of the background. So as I click and drag, it's selecting similar looking pixels. It's got most of the guy there. Let's just get his arm in. And if you need to remove something from the selection, click the minus icon and then just pop in to this middle bit here maybe, and the background here, and this section here. But again, don't worry too much about making it perfect. And once you've selected the guy and the bike, then hit Control C to copy and Control V to paste him onto a new layer. So what we'll do now is hide this layer for the moment because we're going to actually remove the guy from this background copy layer, and then we can motion blur the background so we can have a different blur on the background compared to the cyclist, and that will mimic the panning effect you get when you pan with the action. The background's moving at a slightly different speed to the foreground cyclist. So to get rid of the cyclist, we're going to go and use the clone stamp tool, which you can get by pressing S, or you can click and select it from here. You might find it quite handy to drag the toolbar out actually so that it's floating nearer your shot. And with this background copy selected, press Alt to sample some of these plants here just at the left, and then click and spray them over the bike and the cyclist as well. So I'm just going up here making an initial pass just to start cloning out. This is all in one click, and there we go. And you can then click again and spray if you've run out of pixels to clone over. I'm cloning similar pixels over the bike there. We've got a patch of mud there, so let's extend that there. Grass gets extended too. This brick here, if I alt click this, I can then spray that and extend that over the cyclist like so. And again, alt click and spray, and it doesn't take too long. Again, it doesn't have to be terribly accurate. Let's go from this angle here and spray over the cyclist, because what's going to happen is we're going to motion blur the background anyway, so any imperfections will be erased by the blur. So that's a very rough and ready clone there. Let's just click to get rid of those final traces of cyclist, and there's our background copy finished there. What we can do now is blur that by going to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and let's choose the angle that suits the panning of the camera as the guy's coming from right to left. Let's select it like so, and maybe a distance of about 24 pixels should give us a nice blur for the background. Keep it nice and stylized because I'm not too worried about that. It's just a background drop for our foreground action. So let's click OK, and there's the blurred background without the cyclist. And if we decided that 24 is not quite blurry enough, you can apply the filter again quickly just by going to Filter and Motion Blur. It remembers the last filter that you used, so we apply that again, we get a more dramatic and smoother looking blur, so that's actually more appropriate, I think. And as you pan with a moving object, the moving object is not going to be as blurred as the background because the relative difference in movement isn't as dramatic because you're actually moving with the subject. But we still want to give some blur to the cyclist just to give him a sense of speed. Before we do blur him, let's just duplicate him because we'll need that a bit later. Turn off that for the moment. And then this layer here, make sure you've got that targeted, and let's blur that just to give another sense of motion blur to him. So go to Blur, Motion Blur, Again, you see you're getting rid of this problem in the wheels there. We can see some of the original background showing up, but now the blur makes that a little bit better. Let's make it less blurry though, because the movement is a little bit less dramatic since we're panning with him. Something like that should do. Click OK. The angle's the same because we're coming in the same direction. And there's our blurred version. Now, what we need to do is we're simulating the fact that the flash has gone off at the end of this pan and it's filled in some of the foreground detail there. So we've got a hint of sharp, crisp detail as well as wonderful motion blur. And we need to use this layer here to do that.